Hello, good evening. It is me. It is that D-O-double-G. And it is the award-winning podcast, the Absolute Football Podcast. And we would like to welcome you all here for this virgin experience for us this evening. The first time ever we are having a podcast dedicated to women's football, the WSL and the Championship. And I'm very excited. And I know we've had a lot of people looking forward to this one. So for those of you that are here, thank you. Thank you ever so much for joining us. This is going to be a wonderful evening. And of course, as you may notice, I'm normally here on a Monday. Josh, what are you doing here on a Wednesday? You don't know women's football. No, I don't. But fortunately, I have comrades in arms that know much more than me, are going to educate not just me, but you all this evening. And so first of all, we have Chloe. Chloe, good evening. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm just sensational. I'm so excited, and and look, we'll tell you what, we'll jump into the chat in a minute. But Chloe, we've also got Rebecca. We will go back on and find out a bit more about you all in a moment. But Rebecca, how are you this evening?
I'm good, thank you. Very excited.
It is in exciting times, and also dropping in and out at the moment. We have Paul. Paul's with us this evening. He's got a touch of a lag there, but Paul, you can give us hello. You can give us a little hello if you're there. You'll pick up eventually. The suspense is killing me. I'm so excited. But while we are waiting, everybody in the chat, there's Chris. Thank you for joining us, Chris. I hope you are doing well. Good evening, Charlotte. Always a pleasure to have Charlotte with us. And Simon, thank you very much for joining us as well, Simon. To everybody else, if you are watching live, feel free to interact in the chat, ask questions, point out errors, educate us all. We thoroughly enjoy it and appreciate all of your interaction. But first of all, Chloe, this will be the first time that I've done anything with you podcast-wise. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? Don't tell us where you come from, like specifically. Be general, like a city. But who you are, where do you come from? Who do you support? Let us know a little bit more. What makes Chloe tick, and why do you like the WSL?
So as you know, I'm Chloe. I'm from Preston, which is actually where women's football originated, but we can talk more about that later. And I am an Everton fan, or as we more say, Everton sufferer, because they're not doing so well at the minute.
Too much Everton.
What drew me to women's football? I got into women's football quite late actually. Like I've always followed men's football. Like I live quite close to Deepdale where Preston men play, and so I've always liked the men's side. And then I was actually watching the 2019 Women's World Cup that made me realize like, oh, like women play football and they're actually pretty good. And yeah, really enjoyed it. And my mum supports Everton, hence why I'm Everton.
Everton. There's too much Everton. It is a pleasure to have you here, even if you support the team on the wrong side of the Mersey. How about you, Rebecca? Are you going to put me out of my misery? I know that you're not. But why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you, who you are, where you come from, who you support, and why women's football for you?
Well, I'm from a little town not too far from Chloe, Darwin. The same. I'm an Everton fan.
Who did the vetting?
Everyone in my family's an Everton fan, so I've been raised as one. With women's football, I've grown up really with the men's game. Then I got involved with her game too, and that helped to point me in the direction of women's football and to learn more about it. And then we were at an Everton match and they were promoting the women's games at Walton. So me and my dad thought, let's go. And from then we fell in love with going.
That's good. I think you do get good attendances, I understand, at the Everton women's games as well. Yeah. And isn't that lovely that your dad takes you along as well? I think that's good. I enjoy when parents can take their kids along. And to Everton, though, you want to have a word, get him to sort that out. But hopefully, we're going to see how the internet is going on, if there is any lag between us. But Paul is joining us. Well, hopefully, you're going to be able to pick us up and hear us, and God willing, be able to answer us what got you into women's football and who do you support and why. We'll see, though, because he's frozen. We'll give him a little bit of time. Well, what we will do for the time being, we shall just press on. I mean, we've got in the chat as well. Who else we got? We got Sean has come in. Good evening, Sean. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. And Chris has said he's just got a ladies team back in 2019. Now, Chris joins us from Charlotte, North Carolina. Ordinarily, so I'm assuming that is where he is referring to the ladies team over there. And women's football in the USA, normally they seem to be quite good these days. The development is very good. We will touch on that, but of course, we're here to learn all about the rise of women's football. And this might shock you all as it shocked me. Women's football is not a recent occurrence. It is not something that has sprung out of the ground in the last 10 years. In fact, upon my limited reading, I've detailed even in the late 1800s, there was women's football. But Chloe mentioned that there was women's football developed in a little town near you. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it was originally the Dick Kerr ladies, and they started it in and around Preston. It was more or less like when the men went to war, the women were a little bit bored and they wanted something to do. So
Yeah.
they started playing football, and they actually played a match on Boxing Day at Goodison Park and got over 53,000 people in attendance.
That's not bad there, is it? And that my understanding is up until the 1921, there were over 150 women's clubs playing, with attendances often hitting that 45,000 fan mark. I mean, before we move on, is there anything else, any other history that you have of the origins? Deep dive then, or shall we push on?
What else have I got?
Got
I've got loads of notes just scattered everywhere. It's like Lily Parr became the poster girl for women's football, and she kind of like paved that way. And then in the 1950s, it actually got banned because of the fact that it was becoming more popular, and the men didn't really like that. The women were kind of taking stereotypically like their game, so it was banned until about the 70s, and then it was brought back.
It was indeed, and I think one of the comments I saw as well in the ban of 1921 after the war was when the women were returning back to work, it was felt that women should get back to women things, as it was back in the 20s, and it wasn't ladylike to be playing sport. But that wasn't the death of women's football. Oh no, because believe it or not, women are independent people that do what they want to do, and there was almost a bit of a underground network, if you like, of women's football, and there was quite literally, I think there's between at least 30 to 50 known unofficial women's football clubs that continued to play throughout that 50-year ban. 50-year ban, when they weren't able to play, which explains some of obviously why there's going to be a little bit of a difference between the standards of football if you've not got that sort of support all the way through that period of time. But as you mentioned, in 1969 was the reformation or the reforming of the Women's English Football Association, but the ban wasn't lifted until January 1970. Now, Chloe, again, as the historian of the older days, because I'm not going to say anything about the age difference between you and Rebecca, but at that point in time, did you have anything on what sort of happened, about why that sort of resurfaced, and why the FA was brought back into being?
So what, from my knowledge, is they brought it back because there were complaints about it. Like the women were like, yeah, we want to play. Like the men play, why can't we play? And like they were all calling for it, like we should get to play, they play, we can play. And it came back with a bang. Like in 1971, there was a 31-to-1 vote for the UEFA to take control of women's football. And then it just continued to grow. The women's FA, they got an office, they got staff, they were finally taken seriously almost.
And it sort of coincides as well with the cultural changes in society at that time, because some of you may not know, because you're all very young, but I'm very old. But there's a period of time where, I mean, even to now, that the rights aren't still quite equal, and women sort of struggled to force their way. I don't think the funding was quite right, and there was lots of sort of differences there. I mean, what do you think? I mean, if we can't leave Rebecca, I mean, there's big rise in consciousness of people for women's football, certainly for myself as somebody that hadn't really got involved in it before then, was at the 2019 World Cup. But is that your earliest recollection that you think, or what do you think was the real thing that kickstarted and really brought around the growth in women's football?
I do think the 2019 World Cup did help. I think the Euros was one of the biggest for women's football, especially with them. Oh, my Siri just set off.
Like Sam.
Especially with them winning the Euros, I thought that's what got me into it personally, seeing the growth out the Euros. And it was just seeing how many people rallied behind them. I feel as though like the numbers we're seeing now is because everyone's seeing like, oh, Mary Earps, Chloe Kelly, like the players that are there, they now know that's a household name. Like you're walking around and people are like, oh, you've got Chloe Kelly on the back of your shirt, or you've got whoever. And I feel like the World Cup did do a lot for them, but I do think winning the Euros was what set them off on where they are now.
I mean, it was really the 2000s, I think, from most of the reading I've seen from the sort of 2000s is when it sort of picked up, but that wasn't the case in all the countries. In America, I mean, America have dominated women's football for, I've got it since at least the 90s, which I don't think you were even born then, Rebecca, in the early 90s. You're aging me terribly. I mean, we spoke a little bit about it off camera, but I mean, for you, why do you think that the Americans managed to dominate in the way that they have done and so much earlier than the progress that's been made over here in England?
They have a law in place, which means that while in education, the funding's all equal, no matter what gender, what ability or anything. So they've been able to set it off from the start. So you go to school, you're straight in, and it's the same funding. So I feel as though that has helped with the development of football in America. And it's mainly funding. That's one of the most important things when it comes to football.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the structure seems to be set that they're much more sport orientated, I think, in America to sort of get things right. I mean, for you, Chloe, was there anything in the 2000s, early 90s that you've picked up on it at any point that you've looked through that you feel was integral to the development of the game to where it is now?
Well, one thing that I do know is that in 1998, Hope Powell became the first like female England manager. And if you know Hope Powell, that's like a huge thing because Hope Powell is this incredible manager. Like she managed England, she's managed Brighton, she's managed like various other teams as well. So that's a pretty like huge moment for women's football, getting like their first female manager, if you will. And then they start getting like again, they start getting the funding, they start getting the players. The Women's Super League wasn't actually established until 2010, which is crazy to think that it was only 13 years ago that women could actually play professionally.
You were born in 2010, Rebecca. Then you're not that young, are you?
No, I was born in 2010.
That's okay, just so I don't feel too old. Yeah, and it is. 6. I mean, just behave, really. I mean, Bate's good. Hope is a legend. I mean, and Sean in the chat telling us, if the first ever game that Sean went to was watching Leeds versus Sunderland final in Northampton, where we got to meet Leah Williamson and Beth Mead. I tell you what swine. What a swine. And Chris was saying earlier, Mary Earps is brilliant. She got Nike to make a women's goalkeeper kit, which is just mental. I mean, we touched on England having a women's manager. Do you think when Phil Neville took over as the England manager, do you think that was a help over hindrance? So if I start with you, Chloe, what did you feel the impact that Phil Neville had?
I don't think he had like a huge impact, which could be controversial because I know some people actually quite like him, but I didn't. I thought he did well with the World Cup, but also he was only playing like certain players, like Leah Williamson, I know got 6 minutes. And as we know, Leah, she's a phenomenal player. Like she is so good. And I just felt like he either didn't take it massively seriously or he just wasn't cut out for being a manager, I think.
Yeah. I mean, what about you, Rebecca? I mean, again, I can't remember what period of history he was the manager of, but I mean, coming into somebody at your age at that point in time when he was there, when you look at it now, when the fact that he was in charge, do you think that he was an asset? Do you think he brought any benefits, or was actually holding back the progress that the game could have made?
Like Chloe said, I think he was holding back a bit with like not playing the likes of Leah Williamson when you look at where she is now. But then I feel as though having him as manager has helped set on where we are now. It's like if we'd have had someone else, would we have then moved on to be as well as we are? And we were able to learn what works, what didn't, manager wise.
Yeah. I mean, Mr. Luke's in the chat. No, Mr. Luke. He says it's rare for me to see these podcasts. Hope everyone's having a good one. Thank you very much for joining us there, mate. Paul's just saying he's sorry. Coventry's internet has kept him off joining, but he's enjoying the discussion. I'm sorry that you were able to join. Hopefully, Paul will be able to get it sorted for next time. But what Bate was saying, Phil won the She Believes Cup. Believes is a controversial opponent, but they laid the foundations for which we are seeing now, and I think that's. It did. I mean, the fact that, I mean, for me, as somebody that wasn't engaged with women's football at that point in time, the fact that Phil Neville was there as a name drew the eyes in. It's a little bit like a high-profile appointment when Man City signed Fabinho, sort of something to draw that attention. And as you said, he just brought eyes to it and showed you what potentially what attention there could be on there. I think, was he in charge? Which one of the World Cups was he in charge for? Because he did okay at one competition, didn't he?
Yeah, he was in charge of the 2019 World Cup in France, and he won the She Believes with England. But one of the funniest things he said when he was appointed was he knows women's football, or he knows women's sports because his sister plays netball. And
Awesome.
it was just really funny the way he said it. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of ties into Simon's comment here. Simon believes Phil Neville is an idiot, and he also believes apparently he never applied for the job. Apparently, and Phil's in the chat. He'd argue Neville gets far too much credit. If there had been managers like Wiegman around in 2019, he's convinced England could have won it. Which, seeing what Wiegman's done now, I wouldn't be disinclined. I wouldn't be disinclined to agree with Paul there. I think. Shown a lot more tactical now. So I mean, I've had a look in the initial stages, and as the WSL has been developed, as you said, only in 2010. Are there lots of male managers? Are there lots of female managers? What's the mix at the moment?
So there's mainly male managers. I think there's 3 female. If I'm correct.
I haven't got a clue. I'm going to believe you. Say it with confidence and you'll be right.
I think there's 3, but
yeah, I mean, do you think, for you, Rebecca, do you think that is right, or do you think it doesn't matter at this stage, or what are your feelings towards that?
I feel as though, like you see with Emma Hayes, what she's been able to do with Chelsea, becoming one of the greatest managers in women's football. If they do the job and they get them playing well, then I see it as like it is what it is in a way. It would be good to see more female managers. Feel as though like it is very still male dominated, and it shows with Serena Wiegman, Emma Hayes that they can do it. But as long as they get them playing.
Yeah, I mean, Bake TV in the chat, and thank you for joining us, Bake TV. Ellen White's little toenail was a difference between us beating the USA in that World Cup. It's always this small margins, always the small margins. But as you mentioned, the WSL was set up in 2010. Now I'm a little bit hazy. I think is it 24 professional teams? Is that right, or am I wildly wrong? Either one of you, feel free to correct me.
Yeah, because there's 12 in the WSL and then 12 in the Championship.
That super ignorant question, and I do apologize in advance for my super ignorant question. In regards to promotion, relegation, how the point system works? Is everything exactly the same from one game to the other, or do you have any crazy playoffs like they have sort of in Belgium where they split the league in half, the top play the bottom, and you have playoff relegations, or is it just exactly the same as the Premier League? Rebecca, do you want to let me know? Educate me.
I think it has changed. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chloe. It has changed. I think there did used to be a playoff. Was it third at bottom?
Yeah.
I researched that earlier. It's now changed to one's relegated from the WSL into the Championship, but two can get relegated from the Championship.
Yeah.
So is it just? Does that mean there's just one promotion place in? Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my days! It's a little bit. I think if Charlotte might be in the chat and Claire's here. Oh, there's Claire. Claire's saying hello, and Sean incidentally, there's 5 out of the 12 teams have a female manager. But if it's similar to only one team get promoted, that's a little bit like the National League, the Wanawama National League. I think that can only have one team going up. That makes it horribly competitive. Do you think though, because there's only one team going down, does that take the competitive edge off a little bit of the shine, or do you think that's fair at this stage given the number of teams that we have? I mean, Chloe, what are your thoughts?
I think it does a little bit because if you say 10th of the table, you think, oh, it's all right because there's only 12 teams. But what makes me laugh about the FAWNL, like the Women's Nations League, is, well, the old systems, they've got a new system now. Is the old system, it was the winner of the Northern team had to play the winner of the Southern division. So they'd play each other and then only one would go up, which is really weird, in it. But that's what it used to be before they changed the rules. But yeah, I think it gets a bit, not dull, but they get a bit complacent if you're 10th and you know you're going to be safe. Like,
Yeah.
weird.
I mean, I was going to say, Luke's in the chat said he could do sprucing up the WSL. I'm glad we've got these podcasts on a Wednesday now. Exactly. I know, to be honest, the main reason why, we decided, because Charlotte, Sam and I, we're not going to be here every single week, but we've decided we're going to sort of try and give you guys a little introduction into the WSL pod. The main reason for me doing this one is I know very little. So this is an education for me to learn things from you two here. So feel free to educate me and explain to me what the heck is going on. Bait TV saying in the past there was one team that were nailed on relegated, which is Yeovil, for example, but now it's a lot more competitive at the bottom with West Ham and Bristol having a ding-dong battle. But I sort of agree, if it's just the one place that can go down, it does sort of take that edge off a little bit, because you've only really got to be better than one other team, which does take a little bit of that shine off. Look, I was going to ask what you touched on there, Chloe. So there's the setup there's a WSL, the Championship. Is there what's underneath the Championship then?
So underneath the Championship, then you've got the different divisions and the different leagues. So like there's the FA Women's Northern League, and then there's a Southern League, and then there's like a few like grassroots leagues as well. The Northern and the Southern League, the way it used to work was like one of them would get promoted to the Championship, but the winner of the Northern League and the winner of the Southern League had to play each other, and the winner of that game would then get promoted.
So there's there's one team going up into the Championship, and then one from the Championship up. So it does sort of limit a lot, doesn't it? I mean, Paul's saying that there's a log jam in the Women's Premier, in the Women's Pyramid right now, that the FA or NUCO needs to fix. As Chloe says, the old third tier system was ridiculous until the season. But the big teams don't want it increased. In regards to rule changes, I mean, in the Premier League, in the Men's Premier League, Paul's saying there's a massive gap at the moment in the exposure between the WSL and everything else, which, as a non-regular fan, I would certainly agree. What I was wondering then, in regards to these rule changes, in the Premier League, obviously you need to have the 20 teams in the Premier League to vote on them to change, because it's sort of like an independent body within the Football Association. Is that the same with the WSL, or is it purely run and administered by the FA? either one. Sorry, I didn't direct that to either of you then, did I? Because I don't know. Take your pick, jump at it, girls. Whoever wants to pick it first. You're just so polite. Do you know?
Mind.
Yeah,
on, you go for it, Chloe.
Right, so they are run by VFA, yeah, the majority, and hence why the rule has now been changed because there was so many complaints about it. Because Newcastle went up to the championship this time, but they played Nottingham in the kind of like who's going up saga last season, and that caused a lot of controversy because it's like, why aren't they both going up? They both won their respective leagues. They should both be going up, but they played each other, and then Nottingham Forest had to go back to the Northern League. So they changed that rule. It was mental. Like the fact that they had that rule for however many years and it's only been changed this year. It's absolutely crazy because they would never be doing that in like any of the men's league, even like the proper grassroots league. They still would never be doing that.
No, it doesn't make sense. I mean, Rebecca, do you know what Newco is? Paul's saying that VAR or Newco. What FA or Newco? What the heck are they?
I'm
do you know what?
I'm sorry.
Do you know what Newco is, Chloe, or we rely on Paul to answer us in the chat?
I don't. That's like, no, I don't know.
That's one for you, Paul. You're gonna have to educate us. You have to drop a
Newcastle.
note in the chat. Let us know what Newco. He says it's right that the FA. We commented the FA on New. Oh, is it gone? The FA and Newco needs to fix it. Whatever Newco is, Paul, fill us in because I don't know. And Luke was asking, is there VAR in the WSL? But Chris is already, and I'm sorry, Chris, I'm looking at the next chat. Bake TV's already answered, no, there isn't VAR in the WSL. I mean, Rebecca, is it worse off for not having VAR, or is it better in your opinion?
I'm not the biggest fan of VAR, to be honest. I don't see it working in the men's game. I think they're doing well without it. When it gets sorted, then we'll put it in. But
like, you just keep it over there. Just keep it over there at the moment. And Bait TV is actually saying there's a new company taking over the structure, taking on the ownership of the league structure. Paul's telling us Newco are the people who are taking over the running of the WSL and the WC from the FA this season. A bunch of private investors taking over the leagues, which is a discussion in itself. That must be the new company Bait TV is referring to. Perhaps that will be one for the future then, as and when that really sort of picks up and takes over. Hopefully Paul's internet will be sorted then. We can get him on to discuss that, because that'll be intriguing. We'll definitely enjoy that one. But so it's not just been in England where women's football has been growing. In France, the main holders of the Women's Champions League for quite a significant period of time was Lyon. And Rebecca, what can you tell us why they were so dominant over there in Lyon?
They're one of the greatest teams in women's football history. I got some notes on this one. If I can find them. So they are really good with the structure, with financially, and also creating a good environment for the players to be playing in. Very happy, very on with it. They have won, is it 6 Champions Leagues?
6 Champions Leagues, yeah.
6 Champions Leagues, which is an incredible achievement. They've it's taken them a while to get to the point that they were at, but they've had this structure for, I think when I researched it, it was 2 decades to be able to get them to the success that they were at. And they planned for the future rather than putting money in and just seeing what happened. They kept making sure that they had a plan for the future and they had things set out for them.
Yeah. I think do you know what? I'm looking at this. I'm looking online. I think they've won it 8 times, actually, since 2010. 2010, they won the next season. Then there was 3 German teams picked it up. And then they went again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons on the bounce, which is which is crazy. And Bake TV's telling us in the chat here that Leon have sold their women's team, so the men's and women's team have two different owners, which that's crazy. That is absolutely bizarre. But again, that sort of that dominance, and as you said, it's the fact that they've taken that time over it, and it does take that period of time and that period of investment for you to get there. And of course, Barcelona have been creeping, and I think it's a little bit as the interest builds, the investments building, and things just take time. Things take time for them to sort of develop and pick up. I mean, in regard to the growth, I mean, Rebecca, feel free to throw at me anything interesting that you feel that we're not covering that has been integral to the growth of women's football in the WSL so far.
I think the full development of the WSL, where it started, as we said, in 2010, and now you're seeing it started with 8 teams, and now we're up to 12. It doesn't seem like much, but it is a big jump, and it has seen it improve massively. And it's the game quality we are now seeing is incredible. Let's have a look. I've got so many notes. I was like trying to jot them all down beforehand.
You're being organised. We're not sure if you'll fit in with all of us trying to be organised and researching.
So it was in the 2019-2020 season that we saw it expand to 12 teams. That was when we saw Man United and Tottenham gain promotion from the Championship into the WSL. And then in 2022, it was the rebranding of the leagues, which saw them become the Barclays Women's Super League and the Barclays Women's Championship. And then it's like when they signed the rights with the BBC to be able to broadcast.
Yeah.
So more people can get involved, more people can get watching. I think that was a great step forward.
Yeah, it is, and it's the financial gap. I mean, because it was something that people spoke about for a while, about the difference in qualities between the men's games and the women's games, which is a little bit of a silly point for me personally, because there's going to be a difference, because it's been such a long period of time where one's been a professional full-time sport and one hasn't. So it's a little bit, if I learn to play the piano today, tomorrow I'm not going to be as good as somebody who's been playing it for 20 years. Is that sort of bizarre differential? But I mean, prior to Barclays taking over, was there a sponsorship of the league, or was it just purely run by the FA, or how was it funded?
It was purely run by the FA, and it was 2018-19 that it became a fully professional league.
So that's not very long at all, is it? It's like 4 or 5. This is the 6th year. See that maths then? Do you see how fast I did maths from 18 to 24? See at GCSE level. But I mean, in the chat we've got as well. Bake TV saying the TV move from BT to Sky has been huge. As before, BT were not paying the clubs. Now the clubs are getting paid for being on TV. That's helped. And Sean said at least Man United women are doing better than the men. And Claire's giving us a bit of a spoiler here. Littler and women's foot. What is going on with Littler then? Is anything happening? Have you got it on in the background, Rebecca, or have you fully dedicated your thought process to what we're doing at the moment?
No, I turned it off because I thought I'd get too distracted.
Oh, do you know what? That is the sort of dedication that we like. So, Claire, fill us in the chat of what's going on. I mean, Bake TV is saying COVID has hit the clubs hard as one season was cut short, which I imagine was a bit of a kicker. Were you watching the game at that time, Rebecca? Was COVID roundabout when you were watching, or just before?
COVID was really when I got back into football, but I started off with getting back into the men's football, and then the women's followed shortly after.
Were you watching at that point, Chloe? Is that a little bit before your fandom picked up?
I think it was just as I was starting, COVID happened, and then women, they continued playing men's football behind closed doors because no one was allowed in. It was when I just started my degree as well, so I remembered it quite well that the men were still playing, but all the women's had stopped, which was frustrating.
I can imagine, because it does give a bit of a kick in when you're sort of building up that momentum at the time where interest is just starting to build up. I mean, and Chris touches on. We might as well talk about this now, because why on earth not? He's saying about the injury to women's players. Are there a lot of injuries, or particularly specific injuries to pick up on? I can see both of you nodding.
Yeah.
I mean, Rebecca, if you tell us about the ones that you've seen that you're aware of.
ACL. ACL injuries haunt the league.
And what do you? Is that a recent occurrence or?
Yeah. Well,
is there anything that you put that down to?
I think it's just come more into light recently. They are saying that they need to do more research into the boots because currently women are wearing men's boots. So it's like different shape, different things like that. So there's a lot of research going into creating women's football boots to be able to support like the feet more to try and prevent ACL injuries.
Yeah, I mean, also a thing. I was just gonna say, there's also a thing with ACLs about a lot of things saying it's about ground sharing as well. Like, because a lot of the No Man United women ground share with the rugby team, the under 18s team. Like, they do a lot of ground sharing as well. So maybe the pitch isn't up to scratch as well.
Yeah, everybody's agreeing there. Mate saying the ACL. Simon said there's a lot of ACLs. Paul said it's the 3 most dreaded letters. Bait TV's agreeing 3 dreaded letters, which is a little bit uneven that everybody picks up the same thing. And I think you touched on it well there, is because it's still early days in the sport, but as it's become professional, obviously people are going to become more athletic. They're going to be pushing themselves further and harder than they have done before. And men's footballers have had the same issue with there being particular injuries, sort of metatarsals were the trend at one stage. Everyone was breaking their metatarsal. And it's that research that only comes over a period of time. And people have to remember as well that the big difference between men and women's bodies are made up differently. We've got different builds, we've got different bone structures and densities, and it's going to take time to sort of pick that up. And it's interesting that picks up, because ACL is really, that is an athletic injury when you're exerting yourself hard, which must show the standard must be of athleticism must be increasing for them to injure that hasn't been done before. Paul saying that the women's growth is massive, but it's top heavy. There are only 4 or 5 teams that really get the media coverage. So stuff like what we're doing here, covering the whole league, is massive. And I agree. We just need to stop everyone throwing Everton. We need to find some Liverpool women's fans. What's going on there? Although my understanding is rather shameful. I think Everton would be a bit club specific. I think Everton supported the women's team better than Liverpool's. Am I right there? Because I know Liverpool didn't, and we got a lot of grief for it. Yes. For audio fans, they are not in agreement. But at the moment, and so in the WSL, I'm going to pick up a comment actually from Big TV. The calendar's getting more and more packed. The top women's games are being the top women's players are being asked to play more and more games, flying further and further without too much of a break. And I think that will be. I mean, and that sort of touches on what Paul was saying, is in regards to the growth being top heavy and certain pressure being put on players, which is why they need this Christmas New Year break. Because we are in the middle. For those of you that don't know, there's a Christmas break, which I think is that, I mean, Chloe, is that a new thing?
No, that's always been a thing. Like, they play up until I think like the 18th of December, and then they have the whole of like Christmas and New Year's off. I think they went back to training yesterday, and then got the first games this weekend. So it's like they get the whole Christmas off, get to enjoy Christmas with the families, and then back to work.
That's because is it the Christmas break? How long does that last? Is that from middle of December to the middle of Jan, or?
So this year it was they played the last game on the 18th of December, and they went back to training either yesterday or today.
Because I believe, is it the 26th, something like that? The league's kicking back off again.
Yeah.
So look at that. See, I know some things, and the plan is by that point we'd have all obviously finished this podcast, the rise of women's football. We would have covered the preview. Next week is the league up to now, and then the episode after that will be covering what we're predicting going forward. So then we're back. So then when the league is back, we're going to be fully, and you will all be fully up to date. And we would have just educated you beautifully. We would have done such a stellar job. Basically, the FA Cup was the first game back. Then after that, WSL is back. So I mean, and Bait TV mentioned the FA Cup there. What cup competitions do you have in the WSL, Rebecca? Is it just the WSL and the FA Cup, or do you have, the Pizzeria Cup or the Caribou Cup, or
is it the Conti Cup?
The Conti Cup. No,
Yeah.
it's the Continental Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Continental Cup's quite funny in the way that they do it. Do you know about like the rules of the Continental Cup?
I haven't seen anything. What is it? It's Continental Cup, did you say?
Yeah, it's the Continental Tires Cup, where it's basically the women's version of like the Carabao Cup, but it's
Right.
quite
So it's not like continental, like across the world.
no,
It's like
just
it's the
like
equivalent. It's the equivalent to like the Caribou or the Pizzeria Cup or
yeah,
Johnson's Paint.
yeah, but it's quite funny. I don't know if they do this in like the men's one, but if they draw, so like if the game ends 2-2, then they'll have penalties at the end. So whoever wins the penalties, they get an extra point. Like it's really. I see
So
you looking confused, Josh. I was like, it is confusing.
is it
It's
like a
weird.
league thing or is it a knockout cup? What is it then?
It's like a knockout cup. Yeah. Go on, Rebecca.
Does it start as a league and then it's like knockout rounds?
So they all get put into like groups, but they get put in groups with like all the teams close to them. So it's like the Everton, Man United, Man City will all be in a group together, and they are the group. Then they get knocked out because Everton are definitely getting knocked out because they've not won.
Good. not that I'm concerned either way, but it's about time. I just feel outnumbered all the time, massively. And incidentally, Claire's telling us in the chat is 4-2 to Little and them. So Little is leading 4-2. Isn't that lovely? If you're watching us instead of the darts, thank you very much. We'll keep you abreast as and when the points and the scores change there. But I mean, in regard to the WSL, then we've covered. Obviously, we've gone through the start and the formation and whatnot. The big names. What has been the big news or the big teams that have been dominating the league? Obviously, in the Premier League in recent years, we've had Man City dominating with a little bit of Liverpool sprinkled in here and there. But before that, obviously, Man United just spoilt it for everybody by just being far too good for us to cope with. I mean, Rebecca, has there been a WSL team that has dominated in that way?
Chelsea in the last 4 years. They've been unstoppable in the league.
Is that a money thing? Have they been spending a lot, or are they just very well managed by the ever present the big name Emma Hayes?
She's an incredible manager. She's worked wonders with the squad. I mean, it's like Lauren James now. She's doing incredible with England and Chelsea. I think she's second leading goal scorer in the league.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about spending, but I do know that Emma Hayes has worked wonders with that squad.
I mean, Chloe, have they spent a lot of money? Because I know obviously I think the highest transfer fee I thought was something like $250,000 at one stage. I think so. It's not the same sort of money that has been spent in the WSL. But I mean, are Chelsea the big spenders, or do you not really have any that outshine everyone else in that aspect?
I don't necessarily think it's like a big spending, but I know that they train at like the men's grounds, probably gives them a big advantage getting to like be in that facility with all like with all the facilities and all the equipment that the men's team use, they get to use as well, which is I'd say a huge advantage. And Emma Hayes is just an absolute goddess. Like she's so good. And I think it's also all about trust. Like you can see how much trust her players have in her, which I think is a huge factor in any squad and any manager, that you just got to have trust that they kind of know what they're doing. And Emma Hayes has proven that consistently. And I think she's going to be a big loss to Chelsea next year when she's managing the USA.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of love here. I mean, surely saying Dame Emma Hayes, Simon saying Emma Hayes is brilliant, would be a big miss at Chelsea, but deserves the USA job. And Bait TV and Paul are on the same page here. Bait TV and Chelsea being the dominant side. Before that was Arsenal, under the legend that was Vic Ackers, who was at the same time as Arsenal men's kit man, which is an interesting bit of trivia. And Paul's saying the same thing. Chelsea and Arsenal going professional under Vic Ackers years before any other team. And Chelsea because they play fantasy football, but also Emma Hayes makes all those stars work. I mean, the recurring theme I'm seeing in both those comments and from yourselves is those are the two teams that have had the better investment and support for the longer period of time. So who would have known if you take things seriously for longer, you're going to do better than everybody else? Who would have known that the passage of time makes things better for everybody there? I mean, and have there been any other sort of big names? There's been Chelsea. Who's been the players that have sort of really stood out? I mean, if I start with you, Chloe, for you, has there been any big name players that have stood out and really drawn that attention or excelled above everyone else?
Oh, I think this season, like Rebecca just said, Lauren James has been absolutely amazing. But I've also really enjoyed watching Lauren Hemp. Like Lauren Hemp's a player that I always enjoy watching. We're the same age, which is also quite weird considering what she's achieved and everything. But I love watching Lauren Hemp, and I think she's so young still, and she's got so much further to go.
Well, I mean, the same for you, Rebecca. Any big names that have sort of spring to your mind when you think of the women's football, or people that have drawn you to it?
Well, at the moment, Mary Apes is such an inspiration to many with getting Nike to sell her shirt and what she's done for women's football. You've got Bunny Shaw, who's the current leading goal scorer in the WSL. But then it's like, if you think about past players, for me, it's the likes of Sue Smith, like seeing her now doing commentary. And also the likes of Flora Williams, who's the most capped player for the Lionesses. I think she was an incredible player.
And does the WSL keep their big players? Because I mean, like other sports like rugby, for example, which is I use that as a comparison because it's not got the same finances that the men's football does. In rugby, you get a lot of players get pulled into other leagues because there's a lot more money and a lot more interest. And you see Emma Hayes taking over at America. Do we have the same sort of thing? Do the good players in England get dragged into other leagues, like playing at Barcelona, for example, or going to play at Lyon, or the WSL doing well at withholding their players? I mean, for you, Chloe, what do you think?
I think that a couple of like big players have gone to other clubs because I know last year Kira Walsh went to Barcelona for an absolute record fee, and she's a phenomenal player. Like I rate her so highly. So she went to Barcelona. Lucy Bronze has been all over Europe. She's been at Lyon. She's now at Barcelona as well. So, but a lot of the time they kind of stay in their area. Like I've not seen many WSL players go down to the championship or anything like that.
Well, and for you, Rebecca, looking at the teams in the league, is it the same? You know, are the big teams in the men's game? Are they the big teams in the women's games, like your Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, or is it slightly different?
It's slightly different. Liverpool have only just recently got promoted into the WSL last season. I think that was their first season in there for a while. It's varied. I mean, we've got Bristol in the league. So it's quite different to the men's league. But your Chelsea and your Arsenal and your United are quite up there. Everton float around. We have been up there, but we're like floating mid-table at the moment. But hopefully anything can happen, anything can change.
I'm on Bake TV telling us last season, oh no, I'm going to get this last name wrong. Battier. I thought I was going to get it wrong. It was the best player in the WSL. She won the World Cup with Spain. And this season, a lot of top-class players. And West Ham at the bottom have just signed American Mewis. Is that right? I said that name right. Yeah, well, I'll take that as a yes. Liverpool have won the WSL titles before their recent relegation, apparently. And Georgia Stanway is a big name at Bayern Munich. And Mr. Luke said it's interesting in the women's football is true the insight of it. And it is. I'm learning things. I didn't know that you only had one team getting relegated. In regards to Champions League, is it they said you have 4 Champions League places, or is it just 2 or 3 or 1? Or Rebecca, tell me. Let me know.
The winner of the league gets qualification to the Champions League. and then second has to go through qualifiers to be able to get to the group stage.
And do English teams? I mean, Chloe, do English teams do very well in the Champions League, or are we lagging behind still?
Lagging behind a little bit. I mean, Chelsea have got through, and to be fair, the only thing Emma Hayes hasn't won with Chelsea. So who knows? Maybe this is her year to do it. Of course, you've got to find a little present for players. Champions League.
I mean, it would. I mean, I'm looking here. I mean, I've got Arsenal won it in 2006. Which I'm assuming, based on the comments we've seen, because they were a professional team before everyone did it. Oh, 2007 was a 2006, 2007 season, so it would have been 2007. But but other than that, you've had Frankfurt have won it a couple of times, 4 times, and then there's 1, 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5 German teams, Lyon and Barcelona. So that's about it. So certainly been dominated by the others. I mean, at Chelsea aside, do you see any other I mean, Chloe, do you see any other teams at any point getting to a sort of level to be able to compete over the next sort of 2 to 3 years?
Arsenal have come second like a couple of times. They were just unlucky this season that they didn't qualify. So I reckon Arsenal could give Chelsea a run for their money.
I hate seeing these other teams do well. Liverpool, sort your lives out, sort your women's team out. I mean, what is interesting? I mean, we're going to have Freya's going to be on one of our other shows. Freya also does the whole 115 Yards podcast as well. She's going to be part of our team here. Now, she has a different men's team to the women's team that she supports. I mean, Rebecca, you mentioned, are you Everton, both men's and women's?
Yeah.
Are you the same, Chloe? Are you Everton, both men's and women's team?
Yeah, and also Preston, because I'm going to split a household for teams.
I mean, did you see a lot of people supporting one men's team and one's women's team? Because I just want to know, can I glory hunt for my WSL team, or should I stay faithful to my men's team? I mean, Rebecca, do you think I'm allowed to glory hunt? Do you see a lot of that, or is it just, you should just tie your colours to the mast?
See, I'd find it weird supporting another team. Like, I'm Everton. It's like if I was to turn around and say, oh yeah, support United in the WSL, I don't think I'd feel right saying it. It's a case of, I do have a friend that is a Blackpool fan, but she also supports Arsenal women. So that's a bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then it's like, with me, I'm Everton and Accrington. So it's 2 teams.
I mean, how about you? Do you have that mix of, or do you think you're one and that's it?
I've always supported like Everton, so I think I'm just I'm the same as Rebecca. I can't imagine supporting like a different women's team. But I know one of my friends, she's a Liverpool men's fan, but she supports Arsenal women.
Yeah, I see that's the thing, because it's not a different sport, it's a different league though. Those teams will never interact each other, and I think I don't know. I mean, for me, I would struggle for a little bit, being Welsh. I mean, I support Liverpool because I live in a valley in South Wales, so I'm nowhere near Cardiff or Swansea. They are towny scum, and I'm a Valleys boy, so you can't support either of those. And at that point in time, it was Liverpool or Man United, and Liverpool had Ian Rush, who was a Welsh legend, and that's why I ended up supporting Liverpool. So I almost sort of feel like I've got no association to a women's team. Could I potentially glory hunt and not have to suffer the pain that I had to suffer through the 90s of being a Liverpool fan, which was horrible, and just do it? But I'm the same. I think I don't know. I mean, each to his own. I'm not judging or putting anybody. You pick what you want to pick and what you feel, because it's sport and you got to bloody love it and enjoy it. So you do what you need to. I mean, and Simon's saying in the chat, he supports Coventry City, but the women's team he follows is Chelsea. Paul, I know, actually covers Coventry's women's team, so he might take exception with you, but I think you would love your sport. You would support what you want to support. But Paul's telling me Liverpool are coming on this year under Matt Beard, and they have a legit chance to break into the top 4. So I don't know. I'll continue to suffer under. At least the men's can do well, so we can balance it. Hopefully there'll be a yin yang. And Big TVC, Liverpool just beat my team Man United in the last game before the break, so that's nice. At least the women's team can do it, because the men certainly balls out at for us, didn't they? And Claire's saying she's Stockport and Stockport. And Paul's saying he certainly lost Coventry women too. They've moved to rugby. And that, does anybody know? Do either of you two know anything about that? Coventry women moving to rugby, or should we wait for Paul to come on one day? Because that's a new one on me. Does that happen? Do teams move around like that, or is that a unique situation?
That's a unique situation, I think. Like, it doesn't happen often.
Oh, see, we've got more food, more ingredients for episodes down the line. Isn't that exciting? Because of course this is going to be something that's happening every week, which we're very excited about. Claire was teasing us, saying it was 4-4. No, it's not. That's it. She hasn't told us any more past that, so I don't know what's going on in the dark.
Come on.
Well, it's keeping us hanging there deliberately just to build a suspense. But I mean, we've gone through the big players, the big teams, the big names, and I think Chloe, is there anything that you think people need to know about women's football in general before we sort of wrap up and conclude this evening?
Just that it's brilliant, and like some of the stadiums, like I know particularly our stadium, Walton Hall Park, it's so intimate. Like you can, like you're so close to the players, and you have like such a good. That's what I quite like about women's football. That some of the stadiums you go to, they're not as big as the men's. They're so intimate, and like it's just really nice, and it's just women's football is just amazing.
I mean, and Rebecca, is there anything that we haven't covered off, or is there any message you'd like to give to anyone about why they should be getting into women's football?
As Chloe said, it's amazing. It's hard to put into words. It's football. It's at the end of the day, it's football, and if you can get down to your local women's team and just show support. Doesn't have to be one of your bigger ones. It can be a grassroots local team, but it's an amazing sport, and it's just really good to be involved with, especially from like a her game too perspective.
And do you have, I mean, in men's football, you have quite a nasty tribalism sometimes in the games. I mean, I've been to sort of Cardiff City, Swansea derbies, which is an experience. Coventry, Birmingham, which is another experience. If you want to see a 5-year-old lad threaten to stab you for not supporting his team, get over to Coventry, Birmingham derby game. Do you have that sort of same level of tribalism in the women's game? Or is the atmosphere much more sort of family orientated?
Yeah, it's a lot more family orientated. Like just when I go to Walton Hall, there's so many like families there, like young children, and it's just again that's just so nice to see like the younger generation getting involved and being able to get a chance to. And plus, it's like Bates just said that it's a lot cheaper to go watch your women's team, and it's so intimate, it's so nice, it's so family friendly. It's just amazing. I just love it.
Is that the same for you, Rebecca?
Yeah, it was. I was lucky enough to go to the women's Merseyside derby at Anfield, and it was just such a nice atmosphere. You had Everton fans and Liverpool fans so close together, but there was no trouble, nothing at all, and it was just a really nice experience. That was the first time I've been able to get to Anfield, and to see them win was even better.
Yeah.
Really kind. Appreciate that. Thanks both. And, yes. Well, just changing the mood. Claire said it is 4-4. It is 4-4. And so, I mean, and what we're going to do, I think we've covered off a lot this evening. Paul, incidentally, has told us Coventry women are independent from Coventry City. They went bankrupt, got deducted 10 points, survived, and said it with the last kick of the season. And that is a podcast in itself. And I would like to think that will be its own individual podcast that we'll cover at one time. But I think, I mean, we've covered a lot off this evening, and the plan was just to give an idiot's guide to the rise of women's football and what we should be covering. And as an idiot, I feel educated by the two this evening. So I want to thank you both so much for this evening. Thank you to everyone for watching. It's been great to have so many people watching and interacting for so long, all the way through, and especially for the first podcast for Chloe and Rebecca. I'm not sure if this is, I know this isn't Rebecca's first podcast ever. Is Chloe, is this one of your first, or you a veteran of the podcasting world?
No, I've done a couple of different ones.
Oh, but this is going to be her home now. She's going to be here forever and ever. And but in fact, it's been really great. Really appreciate you all being in. And Luke saying in the chat, great show, everybody, up the WSL. Charlotte, I mean, getting love off the award-winning Charlotte and her award-winning Football League podcast. It's an amazing show, ladies. Even you, Josh. I'm not sure she's referring to me as one of the ladies because she does bully me. Bait TV, thank you for joining us and being so interactive with the chat. It's been really great. And Bait telling us it's great to see you all. Thanks to everybody. And Dritty, I apologize. I'm going to get your name wrong there, but a great show. Thank you very much for joining us as well. Simon saying it's a great show as well. Claire enjoyed it. Look at all this love you're getting, ladies. But hopefully this has been helpful to everybody listening on the audio platform. Please remember to give us 5-star rating or if you're on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, all of that jazz. Please make sure that you do hit and do follow us. If you've been watching on YouTube, on the Tube of the Use, please make sure you subscribe. It's totally free. And what it does, every time you click subscribe, well, not every time, because if you click it twice, you unsubscribe. But if you subscribe and like a video, a little angel gets his wings. That's a true story. So please make sure you like and subscribe to everything. And if people want to follow you guys, if people have thought, wow, Chloe and Rebecca have been tremendous this evening. Chloe, where can people find you?
So I am on Twitter and on Instagram at Chloe Bear 529.
Oh, sensation. And Rebecca, where could people find you?
On Instagram, I am Rebecca_Shaw28, and then on Twitter, there's a lot of underscores. _Rebecca_Shaw_.
So all the Beckers. Maybe next time we'll get it in the little white bit underneath the name, so you'll be able to see it. No, we haven't updated all the pod socials because we haven't put this on yet, but I'm sure Sam will do that pretty soon. But I need to put this up because otherwise I forget all of our handles. But if you want to follow us on Twitter, it is at Absolute Ball Pod, YouTube at Absolute Football Podcast, as it is on Twitch. And if you want to follow on the TikTok boom, we are at Absolute Football Pod and Absolute Football Podcast _ on Instagram and Threads, if anybody does that anymore, and the Absolute Football Podcast on Facebook. And of course, it is the Premier League show with myself and some of my friends on Monday at 8:30, and on Thursdays is the award-winning Absolutely Lower League with Charlotte and her rowdy rabble, including Claire who's in the chat. So make sure you check that out. And from now on until the end of time, Wednesdays, 8:30 is the place to be for women's football, WSL, the championship, and beyond is going to be here. 8:30 Wednesdays, YouTube, Twitch, all of that jazz. Please make sure you join us next week where we're going to be reviewing the WSL and the championship up till now, and that is going to be with either Charlotte or Sam. I've forgotten who. It's going to be with one of those and some of our other team for the WSL show. But thank you ever so much for joining us. Thank you, girls, for being on with me this evening. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for being in the chat, for all of your kind words and your support. May it continue. TTFN and Tatty Bye for